So, what are 5 things that the general population really lacks when it comes to preparedness? And let's kind of hone in on 5 essentials that most people just don't have. And I want to explain each one of these because I think it's really important to kind of focus on having some of these items, if not all of them, of course. It would be better if you had them all. But, if you don't have any of these, at least start somewhere and get 1 or 2 of them as soon as possible. So the first one that I have here is precious metals. Precious metals. I know that some people that live in different parts of the country, it's very difficult to acquire precious metals at a good price. The premiums are so high, taxes are just outrageous. And so, I've had a number of discussions with various friends of the channel throughout Europe, in fact. And there's a lot of people in Europe that tell me that the taxes and just the price of the bullion, it's just outrageous and it doesn't even make sense to have it. So there's a lot of prohibiting factors in various parts of the world. But here in the U.S., it's relatively stable, and you can definitely have some precious metals without having too much hardship. When it comes to precious metals, why would you want to have this? Well, first and foremost, it's protection against a currency that, as we see now with the U.S. currency in particular, is starting to really suffer from inflation, and it will continue to, deflate in value over time, just because of all the fiat money printing. So it's a hedge against inflation. And so we also have precious metals, in particular, mainly gold and silver, and to a lesser degree, platinum. But it's still there, and it's still, a viable option for some people. That these metals are real money. When you think about real money, that's what that is, those metals. And the paper we have in our pockets, that's just currency. And it really is just not backed by anything. And it continues to lose value. It's almost like a hidden tax, all this inflation. And so you could also use precious metals to buy things from other people when there is a collapse of currency or just a collapse of economy. And it's also a really good way to put some, if not almost all, really, of your savings into an investment vehicle. And I'm not looking at the word investment in the true sense of like, oh, I'm going to make so much money off of this venture, but more like just to hedge against inflation and to protect your wealth. And so it does a very good job at just maintaining value and, kind of countering any type of inflationary value that a currency may be experiencing. So to have precious metals, silver is kind of the way to go for most people. It's not only just more affordable to get some, but silver is just a lot easier to actually do trade with and to purchase things with. It's in smaller denominations, typically speaking. And so silver also holds very good value, just like gold. But once again, gold, though, there's a lot of value in a very small amount. The downside with silver is, though, that if you get a whole bunch of it, you have to have a lot of space to store it. And you can't really carry it that much with you, in your pockets, just because it can start to add up, and get pretty bulky and heavy. But it's good to have both, to have a bit of gold, but to also have some silver. And in terms of just trying to protect yourself from inflation, you might go a little heavier on the silver. So that's definitely one thing that most people, and I mean even preppers that I know, they just don't have any bullion at all. And maybe outside, maybe a piece of jewelry or something, but I'm talking like actual coins or bars or just actual bullion. it's a big problem. The general population does a very poor job on having at least some of this, and it just depends on the surveys and interviews over the years that But I've actually seen some, just depending on the demographics, of course, too. But some demographics are as low as 1% have some type of precious metal. And I've seen some demographics, and it's mostly older people that have a little bit more knowledge, just overall wisdom. I've seen some of the older demographics have as much as 18%, but still 18%. Even if that was the entire population that it represented, let's just say it was 18% of the population, which is not, but let's just say that, it was that strong. That's still not very good at all. It's still a pretty small minority of people who actually own this. So it's definitely something that is rare. Gold and silver is very rare. But, and the markets are very small too. When you look at the gold market and in particular the silver market is just very, very minute. It's just a tiny little market, and there's just not that much physical bullion really out there. The more you look into this, you'll see that there's just not that much out there. And if everybody got on board and they try to get a few ounces, we would just be left with nothing. There would be no metals available to be bought. So in a way, it's kind of like, okay, it's almost a good thing that not everyone buys, but then at the same time, not everyone has the protection from these metals. So I want to now talk about another essential that I find that's very important that most people don't have, including preppers, and that is an actual substantial ammunition cache or stockpile. Now, I know there's a lot of the brothers and sisters in other countries that really are disarmed by the globalist, and they don't have the ability to do this. But, in the last few places in the world that are free, including where I live, we can definitely stockpile and put back ammunition to fight these tyrannical people if it comes down to it, and these globalists. I tell you, it's getting more and more expensive though to buy ammunition and to stack. I'll just be honest and just say up front that I haven't bought ammunition for some time. It's been kind of hard to find, but also when you do find it, it's just outrageous. In some cases, almost double than what it was just about 8 months ago. And so this is why it's always good to do things, before things get bad. And it's one of those things that things can get so out of control. And we're seeing a lot of people here in America panic buy. It kind of started out with toilet paper and then went with certain types of foods. And then it went with guns and now ammunition, some gun accessories. And then we're seeing all kinds of other things like people moving out of cities and going into more of a countryside type of living, or at least going from an urban to suburban. There's a lot of people that are doing that, especially in larger cities like New York City. Definitely people leaving the downtown urban environment and going at least to the suburbs, if not further out. And we're seeing trends even in California and other places. And it's a very good thing. I mean, that's just people are starting to think, right? They're seeing the danger of being in like these large cities that really are just not safe. Even now, more so than ever, all the lawlessness going on with Antifa and Black Lives Matter and various governors and mayors telling the police to stand down and not to enforce the rule of law. So we have a need more so than ever now to have ammunition, because our guns aren't going to work. You have to feed the guns, because otherwise they're not going to give you anything in return. And so there are people that I meet that have ammunition. I'm not saying that people don't have guns and ammunition, but they just don't have enough ammunition. And this is the really concerning part. Of course, there's also people who think they have enough guns, but what they do is that they have like 3 or 4 different types of guns, and there's no like redundancy in that. They don't have spare parts for their guns. They don't have any of this. And so if they have a gun that breaks down, they don't have a means to repair it. But back to stockpiling ammunition, there's people who have ammunition to some degree, maybe a few boxes, maybe a few hundred rounds. But do you think that's really going to hold you over very long? If there's a civil unrest that goes on for weeks or months at a time, like we're seeing now, do you think that that's really going to be enough? Of course not. And maybe you have to supply ammunition to your neighbors or to your whole community, your whole city block, because there's all kinds of people trying to come into your area and to burn your homes, and to burn you out or to kill you for whatever reason. Crazy people. And so maybe you have to supply people just to safeguard what you have and your own property and your own family, your own life. And so this is something that's very serious. And preppers think, I've met quite a few of them at least that are like, I have a few boxes. I might have a few hundred rounds. And they think it's just like, wow, they did a lot. No, it's not even scratching the surface. That's not even a starting point. And so it's very concerning. It's very concerning. And of course, there's so much philosophy concerning, calibers and so forth. I've already done, videos on that over the years. No reason to rehash all that. I still believe that you should try to go with whatever your local police department uses and whatever the calibers that your military uses in your country. Here in the U.S., it's typically 9mm for a handgun, and the 5.56 or 2.23, and there's a few others as well. But those 2 are the big ones, right? Here in the U.S. But there could be in your country 7.62, whatever. It could be 40 cal, whatever it is, then what it is. You just get that if you can even own guns, if you even have that option. But don't be thinking that you're really good to go because you have a few boxes of ammunition. In a real gunfight, you're going to go through that within minutes, and then you're going to be like, whoa, I have empty guns now, and they're just going to be worthless. So let's go ahead and move on to number 3, ballistic protection. Ballistic protection. This doesn't seem to be like some kind of essential. It's like, what do you mean? I can understand, when you're talking about precious metals, right? I mean, if you have to pay bills, if you have to, buy food from someone, you got to have a means to do it. I can understand having enough ammunition, because if you don't, then you can't keep people at bay that may want to kill you and burn your neighborhood out. So it's all about self-preservation. But what about this ballistic protection? Well, it's on the same line. It's just having another level of protection against threats. It could be from blunt trauma, from actually someone trying to stab you, or it could be from actual bullets, And so there's different levels of grades, if you will, of ballistic protection. It could be body armor. It could be armor or plates or inserts in your backpack. It could be in your vehicle. Some people have it in the doors of their car. There could be all kinds of things. There are some vests that are just made for shrapnel, not so much for direct hits from bullets. There's helmets. There's all kinds of stuff. And so I encourage you to have at least something that you can bring with you if you're mobile, or if you're in a fixed position to provide more cover for your body, especially over your vital organs. And so something as simple as an insert, a ballistic panel insert into a backpack. And while you're carrying that backpack and you encounter threats ahead of yourself, you can reverse that backpack and put it in front of you instead of behind you on your back. And that insert is now going to be covering your heart and your lungs. Very important. That's going to be better than not having the protection, right? So it's just something to consider. I know in some locations, even this is not legal. But in a lot of places, it still is legal to have some type of ballistic protection. In some cases, I think it's just from various blunt impacts, not so much from protecting you from actual bullets, encountering bullets and stuff. But you're going to have to look that up in your local area and see what the laws are. But in my area, this is completely legal, and you better believe I have a lot of different options because I want to have those options. I want to have options for lightweight armor if I want to move fast. But then there's times though that I want to stop the greatest of threats, and I want to have that too. I may not be able to go very fast because it weighs so much, and it is quite bulky, and I do lose some of my dexterity and once again speed. But if I'm in a fixed location, then you better believe I'm going to armor up as much as I can, because I don't have to be moving fast. I don't have to be light on my feet if I'm at a fixed location. So it's good to have options within your ballistic protection systems. Let's now talk about emergency radios. Wow, you may say, what do you mean? Most people have an emergency radio. Well, this essential is something that I see lacking in most households that I have encountered. Now my immediate family and most of my friends, and obviously my prepper friends, they have decent weather band, short band radios that would be classified as an emergency radio. And for a lot of people, that really kind of, it has to include multiple ways to power that radio. And an emergency radio typically is not just like a battery powered radio or a radio that just plugs into the wall. It typically has a hand crank or a solar panel, or at least a few other ways that you can power it. Maybe you can plug it into your vehicle, or it can take several different types of batteries, or maybe it has an internal battery, and then it can also hold backup batteries. I have several like that. So an emergency radio is going to be very versatile. It's going to give you, in most cases, more than just a couple different ways to power it. Secondly, it's going to pretty much always have the weather band, or maybe in your country it's called something different, but you're going to have at least some kind of way to connect with civil defense. And here in America, the weather band also doubles as a civil defense band, and they'll broadcast emergency information if it gets that bad on the weather band here in the U.S., and I believe also in Canada. And so it's also good, though, to have AM and FM. Here in America, it's good to have those bands, an option to go to, as well as shortwave. And so those are that's just like the minimum, And a lot of emergency radios have a flashlight. They have some kind of siren feature. They have sometimes a clock or an alarm that will wake you up if you don't have any other way to wake up. Just a whole bunch of different features, lots of features. I have one that actually will record. You can put in an actual, memory card, and you can record quite a bit, whatever's on the air. And some of them even have little microphones, and you can actually basically record on there as well. And sometimes they even have the ability to transmit. I've seen some that have, a microphone, like an actual handheld microphone, and it's actually like a transistor radio, like in the sense that, a transceiver, if you will. So it can not only just receive, but it can also transmit on certain, channels or frequencies, bands, maybe. The sky's the limit for some of these emergency radios, but the whole point here is this: you really need a good one, and you need to at least have something, right? And a lot of people do not. So many people these days I see say, well, the reason I didn't ever get one is because I have this thing called the cell phone. And the cell phone gives you alerts and it comes up, but sometimes the local cell phone tower will get knocked out of a really bad storm. It's happened here all the time. And in the place that I live, it's like I'm in between 3 cell phone towers. And it's really funny because in my yard, if I walk in certain places in my yard, I can switch between one tower and another and another. I'm like right in the middle of 3 towers. And so I've had, a couple times before 2 of the 3 towers knocked out. And no kidding. So, if you're just relying on cell towers for all your information, all your weather alerts, all of your capability, then you could be up a creek without a paddle. And lastly here, I just want to say that of the 5 things that I consider essential that people don't typically have, especially in the general population. Of course, this video is just a starter video. These are not all of, the essentials by any means. These are just some more outliers, if you will, that don't get a lot of, coverage. They get talked about sometimes, but they don't really get a lot of focus as much as they should, in my opinion. And so this last one here is to have readily accessible emergency cash and enough of it. And most people struggle to even save money for an emergency, much less having it available. Most people just have maybe a couple $100, maybe if you're lucky, $500 in a savings account or just part of your checking, and that's it. But it's not that accessible though. A lot of people literally don't have any cash at home. And this is something that I've been seeing over and over and over for years now. People just don't hold any cash for emergencies at home. Let me just tell you this. Banks sometimes do close down. There's a thing called bank holidays. And I'm not talking like a federal holiday. I'm talking like sometimes bad things happen in society and banks close. You can just look at during 9/11, there was a number of days that a lot of banks didn't reopen when they normally were open, or they were supposed to be open and they didn't open. And so if you have all your money in a place like called a bank and you can't get to it because it's closed, or maybe you have a stash of cash in a safety deposit box, but the bank's closed, you can't get to it, that's a problem. And so have enough actual cash to get you through for at least a few months. That's very easily accessible in the home, but secure, but accessible. That's a very important thing to do and to have around. And let's just be honest, most people, even most preppers, really aren't ready for some really bad, disaster or emergency. Most preppers don't even really have this set up very well. And it's quite concerning. And a lot of times you see a lot of preppers are just like anyone else. They're just struggling to pay bills. They're just trying to stay afloat. They're just trying not to default on anything. And of course, I'm not trying to say everybody's, struggling that bad. There are some people who are doing just fine. But let's just be honest. There's a lot of people, especially now, the pandemic and all the craziness wow, millions and tens of millions of people unemployed. It's unbelievable. At the time of this video, it is really dire for a lot of families. And it's one of those things. This is why we have emergency funds to begin with. But even more so, you want to have it readily accessible so that you can pull from it when you really need it. Because if you can't get access to it, then it's just worthless. So these are just some thoughts here. Some essentials that you don't always hear a lot about, but they're important. And of course, let's not forget, the core essentials, food and water and medical, and having at least a primary and secondary shelter option. to have community, to have various skills, not only just to work together to solve problems. Problem-solving skills are very good, but also practical skills, survival skills, and do you practice them? And so, hey, thanks for checking the video out. Hope you guys are good. Catch you later.